Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Port of Authority of Oswego at 4:48. And we will begin with introductions. Tom, would you start, please?
Tom Schneider, Interim Executive Director.
Stan Delia, board member.
James Metcalf, citizen observer.
Kim Macy, board member.
John Kara Smith, board member.
Connie Casamento, board member.
Brandon Wright, board member.
Kim Natoli, port employee.
Pat McMahon, port employee.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is a request for a motion to move to executive session for discussion of customers. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Stan?
Second.
John?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 4:49, we are now in executive session. So we need a motion to amend the previous motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Stan
To go into executive
Kitty.
session to include James Metcalf.
Right.
and Kit.
Mhm.
To go into executive session and include Jamie Metcalf. 4:50. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right,
Second it.
Sorry.
John and Kit, 5:09.
Stan and Kit.
Stan and you.
Me.
Yeah.
Stan did that? Okay, thank you,
And
Stan.
Kitty.
Kit?
Seconded.
John and I are interchangeable.
I guess.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? We are back in session at 5:09. All right, motion 05192503 to approve the minutes of the April 21st meeting of 2025. Have a motion?
So moved.
John?
Second.
Kit?
Yep.
Any discussion? Edits? Changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pass? Unanimous? Okay, for our administrative operational report, it's Exhibit B. And Tom, that would be you.
So the first item there is this monthly operation update. But what I wanted to do is, this, over time, I'll be looking to modify this to over there. That's those two. Be modifying it so that we can, do some trend and variance analysis. It's tough to just look at one month with
Thank
a
you.
lot of just lines on it. Maybe I just went aluminum from this company and that company. But what I can tell you is if you look at these April 2025 totals,
Yeah.
it's a 113% volume increase over April of 2024, and it's a 63% volume increase over March of 2025, and yet we're not seeing it in the financials at this point. Part of it is,
Because,
primarily because we just established a billing process, an invoice process with the primary customer that we've been handling these large ingots with. And so there are, well, there's some receivable recorded. There was only receivable recorded on what's been billed. We're still working on building our billings, including the tracking of overtime.
so the revenue is not reflected in this. Like you say, it's not even hit the accounts receivable.
It hasn't hit. If it hit accounts receivable, it would have hit, revenue.
Yeah. because it's a nice increase.
But it just doesn't, yeah, it doesn't make sense for us to be making less money than we did in April of 2024, which is your comparison, you know, in the financials at these volume differentials. So, you know, just, I'm gonna ask you to wait and see, and just trust me that that revenue flow is gonna come through.
Plus you've done a recounting of cost to the customer in addition to.
Yeah, well, we established a whole, you know, cost structure with the large ingots. I have new pricing to put out on rate sheets, but we held back to do it till July 1 because of the cloudiness of the environment for the cost for these companies, and I didn't want to add on our cost increase while we were dealing with whether or not tariffs were going to hit, what price were they, were reciprocal tariffs. But we do have the first aluminum vessel scheduled to come in on the 27th or the 28th, and one of the customers carrying aluminum on that barge is requested pricing on putting it in the foreign trade zone. Now, I just sent that out today. And I worked on it with one of our partners to figure out where we're gonna come in. And I already saw that that person responded and asked me questions that I can't answer relative to how foreign trade zones work, but we do have a consultant out there. I will say that I was walking through a process of this North Warehouse, 55,000 square feet, is the boundary designation of our foreign trade zone. So the foreign trade zone is really the whole port, but the designated boundary is that 55,000 square feet, and it's on a map that we give them when it was first approved.
And we
I
have
was
anyone
exploring,
in the forest?
no, there was, the one product came in and went out. Arranged with Mohawk Global in orders that our FTC didn't sunset for lack of activity. And that sunset is November of next year now. But there was another inquiry from another aluminum broker about the FTZ. So people are starting to walk through this, but they were walking through it just at a time when I was looking at how do I clear that infield by moving some of that aluminum that's in the infield inside and utilizing that 55,000 square feet that was not being utilized. There is something you can do called a minor boundary modification. So what I'm hoping is that, you know, we can do a little bit of both. You know, I don't know that we'll ever get to 55,000 square feet of FTZ storage. We haven't really marketed it. We don't know what the reporting requirements are fully yet. So I'd love to get something in there and test that whole process and our ability to comply with it and work with customers.
How long can a customer keep their inventory in the,
I believe it's up to 5 years.
really, that long?
Oh,
And then there's just.
Now, you can come in two ways, and we're not sure which way we can come in, but you can come in and say, I'm locking in the current rates, or come in and say, I'll pay whatever the future rate is when I take
So
it.
fixed rate versus variable rate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be good to just go through the process, get something in there, and then we can, you know, market it once we're proficient at it. So that's pretty much, you know, I talked about the other English diversion stuff in executive session. We have that vessel coming in, and we have the opportunity perhaps to utilize the foreign trade zone. You know, the relationship with DeLong is very strong. Pat and I went down and visited them in Geneva, went to lunch. You know, we're still at the point where we're emptying the soybeans out into rail cars for them. I will say that the rail is challenged right now, and I'll give you the sequence of what happened. A week ago last Thursday, Novelis had said, we'll ask CSX not to deliver these large ingots to you and to hold them in Fulton. That Thursday night, they thought that we had requested a full hold and sent us nothing. Then the rocks started coming. Carload after carload after carload of rocks. They're backed up in Fulton,
I've
and
seen them
they've been pushing to us at other times. They're also, hitting us, with demurrage that is coming automatic. They're gonna challenge all of that. We never requested the hold, and in fact, we started accommodating extra shipments to us. They're the ones who restrict us to Tuesday and Thursday, and then when they asked Pat, you wanna talk a little bit about it?
Just, we're trying to accommodate, to save us on demurrage costs on the cars. Nobody's wanted to talk to me up there. Now all of a sudden the cars are here and now everybody's calling me. We put cars into the port, trying to
We're only supposed to
hold as
have-
much as I can,
They say our capacity is 18,
18, so I'm pushing cars down here
but they've been delivering to us
to
far more.
keep the upper line clear. They did drop cars off last night that we had no clue about.
From midnight?
Yeah.
I heard the horns behind.
Yeah, I got an email about it.
Midnight
So
from
we're
my-
trying, we're doing our best to keep the tracks clear and try to keep everything going, but it's just getting harder and harder because we're running out of room here. So it's been, like Tom said, it's been a ongoing headache, but we're hoping to catch up soon, but I'm not sure how quick.
So, we're managing that. We loaded up grain cars today. When the grain cars are done, we'll clean it out and open it up for corn. Farmers will start dropping off corn, and perhaps even some of the corn will go out rather than just in rail car, but by ship. Which is why we'd love that other conveyor system to come through.
I wish.
So, we're managing with, our limited resources, but we are throwing a lot of labor at items. We had a potash shipment come in on 4/28, we have another one that was gonna be 5/22, but we pushed off because, what happened?
Just timing of loading the Thunder Bay.
Something happened, there was some incident in Canada. To look at Steve's last email. So anyhow, when ships come in, that's good for us. We get stevedoring rates, we get wharfage, we get dockage, and then we get our handling fees. So we've got an aluminum ship coming, we've got a potash ship coming.
Now, this coming in, do you have any rights for them?
No.
No.
So for the potash customer, that's a separate contract with its own expiration date. The same holds true for the agricultural. It's the aluminum brokers that will revise the rate sheet for on July 1. And with our local customer, we have a separate contract altogether, which frankly is, some language is still being worked out.
Okay.
But we can at least invoice now.
It was due to wildfires.
Wildfires.
Oh, that's why the ship has been delayed, because they weren't getting rail cars in because of the wildfire. Yeah.
The marinas, been busy getting boats in the water. We've had some activity on the west side. Our motors have at least got a few slips. The crane is holding up well on the east side. When fishes come in and hang out in our docks for a few weeks until they get bigger and then are towed out.
Been towed out,
They
yeah.
come in from the fisheries with the hatchery. Visited with the USGS on 5/6. situation. They did say they got priority elevated for this location, but what I said to them is, look, when, if we get fighting down to the end and we get to 9:30 and you're not done, we're not gonna
That's the end of our
push
contract.
it, yeah. Well, I'd say it's through 11:30, but they gave enough notice in order for 9:30.
So Tom, did they happen to mention that any of the other sites of the Great Lakes, did they get it?
Yeah, I
Upgraded
met
as
with
well?
I don't know.
Okay.
I did meet with the guy who all of that's under his control, and I have his name and card. And he was one very anxious gentleman, having to deliver a lot of bad news regarding people's lives and employment at a lot of different sites.
Is he from USGS or the government?
USGS.
If in fact, and it's not really 3 or 4 months away, if they vacate, are you thinking of possible tenants?
I'm hoping that they stay, and, yeah, certainly thinking about it. Don't, there's another maritime entity looking for a location, but it's real tough to get 2 federal entities, and both of them are under threat. See this Lake Guardian vessel over here from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. They're doing tours. There's a sanctuary committee that I'm on. They're having a tour of it on Sunday the 25th. I'm also meeting the assistant secretaries to the DOT down there on the 22nd. But it's mostly the HOA Museum that's having. They're doing tours of that vessel. It's a research vessel. If anybody wants to check it out, let me know. But otherwise, it's kind of more in the museum's hands.
Years ago, I went to a conference in Niagara Falls, where both the Canadian and the American sites did major presentations, and it's alarming to be presented with the amount of pollution going into the water, whether it's commercial or from citizen camps. And it needs to be attended to. So I would be hopeful that,
Losing the USGS's services in their testing, research, and knowledge of the healthy environment of the Great Lakes and Lake Ontario would be a very big loss. Species, and just a lot of things that,
drinking water,
yeah.
But we also have Micron that is also just in our water lakes too, so how does, so what's the balance going to be for that?
I can't answer that
Yeah, I know.
question. I'm on some local Micron steering committees, but we did have one of their big providers come in on a logistics tour, and is asked for pricing for an air transformation plant that would reside next to Micron, and basically take air out, separate the oxygen, nitrogen, and argon, and then feed that clean air into the plant. They sit next to them in Boise also, and place to come for most of this stuff. So if we can just hang on till end of 2026, I think that, that we're gonna have more business and we can, well, we'll have plenty of business that we'll enjoy handling.
Hey, Tom,
Yes.
speaking of the USPS, the building there, I did talk to Kitty earlier last month, and I asked her to get involved just
Yep.
so that we know what we got.
Yep.
You know, what, take a tour of the
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, I
even
just
though
wanted,
I want him to be there, I really do.
yeah.
But we just have to see what condition the building is, what, you
Mhm.
know, all those things, so that we can plan.
Yep.
So I don't know if you talked to Kitty in the
I did,
meantime.
I
We
did,
did.
and I just asked, just because when I spoke to her, we just met by happenstance at the doctor's office, but she brought that up, that's what you were looking for, and I said, let me just, you know, I had just come off of the meeting with them, they're very nervous.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I'll set something up with Brian Lantry over there, he's been good, and have Katie walk through as part of our strategic planning committee. Or just planning committee, so we'll make sure that happens.
Don't forget, also on the 22nd, this for the high school, is
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
have a tour here, the history department. There's gonna be about 30 students here. It's like the kids, the
That's
tour.
leading that tour.
They're gonna be touring the whole facility, I'm gonna show them everything from aluminum, soybean, potash. The kids are just curious about what we do down here, so,
We'll be doing another tour.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get practice on the first one.
Connie, talking about tours, I know we're getting off subject here, but remember you spoke to Andy, an old friend of ours,
Yes.
and did you arrange for anything? or-
You know, I forgot at the last meeting, I had it written down. I talked with Tom about it in Fran. Andy Hillman is in charge of the yearly meeting for urban forestry.
Yeah.
And they're having it here in Oswego. And it is July 24th. It's Wednesday and Thursday, July 24th and 5th. He and the people are staying right here. So I talked with him and arranged with the secretary a group that would like to have a tour. So either Pat or Tom or both will be doing that tour on the 23rd, which is Wednesday? I don't know my calendar. July 23rd, day before Harborfest. Oh, it will be a
Okay.
Wednesday,
I got it.
because Harborfest starts on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's the 23rd at 1 PM, and there will be about 30 people there for the tour.
Good. I
And-
remember Andy from 30 years ago. So,
Yeah.
Walk with the flag, I'll go tour guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And I may be able to get them out
You
to
have
Sterling
Disney
Nature
experience.
Center.
I do.
But this is a definite,
good, okay.
and they're excited about seeing the tour.
Yeah.
So we can
Some
have
point
them.
even doing, kind of open community event here or something. Like to get it a little cleaner.
Well, I think they would have appreciated a financial contribution more, but I wasn't in a position to do that, so I volunteered you guys to give me a tour.
That's fine. The break wall repair project is just starting to kind of kick in, and there are multiple ones going on that is finishing up last year, starting this year, and then another laydown area for stuff that's gonna go to Silver Bay. And it's gonna get tricky on the management, but there's a monorail that's coming. The warehouse modernization grant is the PIDP I discussed, and, we're progressing with it, but at a pace where we're not spending money we don't have in advance of not knowing whether or not we can get matching funds. But we will go through the early stages of the application process and some of the environmentals, and spending on some of their Title VI calls. the still watch vessel, after having that and Chuck, we moved it from the marina wall to just the southern portion of our wharf inside the fenced area. It's sat there, Pat's been checking on it, including today, but we don't have a plan.
And since you've touched it,
Pat, how much for the cranes to take it out of the water?
$1,700,000 to pull the boat out of it.
This-
Aren't there any salvage companies that,
There is.
because I searched and found tons of them, but I don't know what they handle.
It's $50,000 for them to tow it, as long as we remove any asbestos or any lead paint that's on the boat. The boat was commissioned in 1960.
Do you recoup some of that $50,000 based on their salvage? Or we'll just take it off your hands and you pay us 50? And that's it?
That's it.
Yeah,
You
yes,
do all the,
they're gonna
you do all the removal, we'll take it, and the
The-
gentleman told me that the boat steel value is about $30,000 worth of steel.
Gotcha,
So it's, but Tom said we moved the boat. We just had delivery today of wood because the still watch destroyed the wall down at the marina. So now we're working on redoing the side so that when all the expensive boats come in, they don't rub up against the concrete, so. Just one thing after another.
And so there's no, legally, there's no option for us for help, assistance from state or federal government?
Not right now.
Not that we know of.
The Coast Guard did a tremendous job and spent a lot of money, and at the end, they brought all parties that they could think of together, including local and state officials, and said, does anyone have a solution here for the port, because we're handing it back to them. And nobody raised their hand.
There was a lot of crickets.
so as of right now, it's our liability issue.
We don't have,
Sink it? Can you take it out and sink it?
well, I did talk to divers, about that, and again, the problem is, not only would you have to clean the paint and asbestos, but the engine room. In order to do that, you gotta get it out of the water. And,
Back to 1.7 million.
Yes.
Yep.
I don't
So-
understand why it's our responsibility. Somebody parks a car in my
What's our,
driveway.
what's our liability? Because sooner or later, it's gonna lose all that liquid inside of it.
it doesn't really have much in it anymore.
There's
does it?
not much left in it. They got the most that they could out of it. There's some residual, like in hydraulic lines and stuff, but she's definitely not gonna be able to make it through another winter.
Hmm.
Yep.
And so, would it potentially sink?
Yeah, we.
If I didn't catch it in March,
What we're-
when I did,
yeah,
yes,
She would've sank.
she would have sank.
So what we're referring to it, we refer to it then as an environmental and navigational hazard.
And so if it were to sink where it is right now, what is our liability there?
Well, there was a vessel that sunk in I think, in Buffalo port. And they raised it, and it cost a lot of money, and I don't know who paid for that.
I mean, EPA doesn't,
We're gonna, I haven't focused a lot of attention on it since we moved it. And, making sure that it didn't create that environmental and navigational hazard, and I still haven't done a lot to explore other options. At this point, it's hard to even explain to somebody on the phone. They think of a boat.
Is it in a position that it's gonna interfere with any of our business,
No.
ships coming in?
Yes, it could potentially interfere with, Pat, when the potash, vessel came in, Pat wanted them to slide down the wall and see if they could get the boom over Dome 4, but they didn't want to do that with that vessel in the way.
And I was thinking, that, the reason that got took on water this winter is because the line froze, right? It was an outlet for the generator, froze and cracked on the inside and took on water.
Molten
So my thought is, okay, in the hull, the divers came back and basically the hull was in pretty good shape. So I'm curious, what would it take just to get those engines running so that we can move that if we have to? That would be a huge plus, just so that we could get it the heck out of the, and we got enough people qualified that could drive a boat like that. So I think if we just took a look at that part, because one of those diesels was running when it came in here. And so my thought is it might not be that difficult to get those diesels going so we can actually move it if we had to. And I'd look at it that way and then go from there. But at least get it so that it's running and it can be moved under its own power.
Yep, you know,
Well, it's $50,000 just to tow boats and all this other thing you're doing, when I believe that is perfectly capable of running on its own, with just a little bit of tweaking. So, but, when I get back home, I'll take a harder look at it, but.
Yep. I'm way out of my field, so.
Yeah.
It just seems like EPA should take responsibility.
We haven't necessarily approached the federal government. Yeah, I'll have some conversations about it with the Lake Guardian folks.
Can you move a vessel like that with a tug if the engines aren't operating?
Yes.
Tug could move it easy,
Is that an option?
where to put it. Guess we could always talk to the fireworks people and see if
Well, one of the things, if the tug is operating, now we can actually take it to the water.
Yeah.
We can move it up the river, we can get it out of here. There's actually boat yards that have the capability to travel this and things,
Yeah.
they can actually live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, because if we're out on the lake like we are right now, our options are slim to none, especially if we have to tow it. If we got to tow it up to Caitlin Marina or up to Navy's Point or places like that, like Caitlin has huge cranes up there. But then again, we're in open water, you're towing it, that's a disaster. If it's on its own power, that's no sweat. So it may not be that difficult to get that running. I don't know what the Coast Guard did, if they pumped fuel off of it, or the original diesel still on board, I'm not sure. But that may be a start to a solution on what we can do with that. Who knows if it's running, there may be interesting people that want to buy it and own it.
Yep, absolutely.
I think that's something to look into there.
It's something to look into. Get back here.
On my way.
All right, let me kind of wrap this up. I stuck on you, we have the audit underway, and I put under your report, asking the board for authority for you to execute the engagement letter. Okay, so we can do that. Operation Oswego County, that's maybe on the board. We met with representatives of Fort Ontario to talk about that, and we banked along the side. They get a lot of complaints about visibility, and we just met and talked about the potential of a plan that I don't necessarily want to talk about in the public setting, kind of, us working with them, but getting something in return.
Visibility way.
The port visitors, seeing the lighthouse and the lake.
So where's the property line that would make us responsible?
It's not, there's nothing us being responsible here. This is them looking for two New York agencies to work cooperatively together for the mutual benefit of both. So, he needs to explore whether or not there's property line boundaries that can be beneficial to us.
That's a lot of information, thank you,
Yeah.
Tom.
Yes.
I don't know how to do this precisely yet. I'll figure it out.
We'll help you, don't worry. All right, our next, agenda item is administrative financial reports, the primary and the subsidiary. Stan, that would be,
That would be
it
me.
would be you.
And Glenn, so you put this up, show the activity. This is a summary of financial report ending April 30th. Excuse my voice, it's just not there. The fiscal year begins April 1, as you all know. As Tom went over the activity, trucks, rail, and vessels activity, and metric tons were up quite a bit in April compared to March of 2025. Cash position and the total checking savings as of April 30th, is up quite a bit from the previous month, ending 3/31/25. It's not really because of net profit,
No.
but more or less, grant monies flowing through filing. So,
Yeah, no, I, again, I will say, I don't believe that the, profit and loss statement is reflective of the activity that occurred in April, if the revenue could have been captured real time. But we didn't even have an invoicing mechanism established with the new, customer. So we'll see some trailing revenues, and that should hopefully also feed into net profit, that feeds into cash. Because it has to.
on the balance sheet, assets. Total current assets for April 2025 are up quite a bit from April 2024, and about the same as the previous month, March 2025. Total assets, including fixed assets for April 2025, are up quite a bit from April 2024. This increase is primarily because of cash position increase, grant receivables, and FEMA West capital improvement. Negatively, accounts payable are quite a bit above accounts receivables. If everyone will look at the true bottom line of things. So, I do agree with that. Total current liabilities are up in April 2025 quite a bit from April 2024. And you really have to wonder why. I don't know.
Say that again.
Total current liability.
Yeah, the current liabilities, primarily, the accounts payable, and that's, up significantly from the prior year and the prior month. And a lot of that is, still due to the contractor, as we get reimbursed and close out the project. There's really only one more billing that we can hit the New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services with, who does the reimbursement. So there is, let's see, but it's primarily WD law. You'll see that on the AP aging report.
Okay. Profit and loss
And it's
statement.
directly tied to the FEMA reimbursement
Yeah.
through additions.
Gross profit ending April 30th, 2025 was slightly more than April 2024. Total expenses ending April 30th, 2025 are significantly more than April 2024.
So where you see that
This
is
is because of,
71,000 in personal services
Yeah,
and
that is-
24,000 in the ILA. Those are our retention. Those are the increases of us putting labor to work for our customer who we haven't billed out yet for that work. So, we should see that revenue be recaptured. And
that
if
personal
it's not,
service.
then you gotta look at me and say, what the hell are you doing?
That personal service line, item is strictly one.
That, there's, that, I wanna get that parsed out between, port staff and, labor, but, most of the increase is labor.
just doesn't seem like
It,
anything can do that much. Okay,
you know, you see the increase in the volume handled, and that volume handled has to be built, and it hasn't been fully built. So you'd expect to see higher labor costs with that higher volume of, you know, metric tonnage, particularly of aluminum. It just hasn't been,
because we just that.
yeah.
All right. Okay, that,
But I'm anxious to see that trend also.
yeah. We're wrapping up here, marina profit and loss, gross profit ending April 2025, slightly above the same as April 2025. Marina is pretty constant in
Yeah.
what we're gonna have in
Yep.
revenue and expenses, it's helps out. Grants receivable summary for April 2025, it's about $340,000 less than it was in March, and that's actually good, because that means the money
It was reimbursed.
was reimbursed on it. Okay. Loan summary, we have interest loans and just a couple of those loans. And just have to explain April 25. The loan amount Pathfinder LLC, line of credit increased by 52,000. And then there was also a loan Pathfinder.
Yeah, so there are two, you know, lines that we're managing. One is strictly tied to the grants receivable, and the other one is an ordinary working capital line. And the way Debbie has managed the ordinary working capital line, the line of credit, you know, you should bring any line of credit that's used for seasonal reasons to zero at some point within the 12-month period, and she's consistently done that. In fact, she brings it to zero quite often. The other line is tied straight to the receivables. It gets paid down as the receivables come in, although I have had a discussion about perhaps converting that into a more permanent form of capital by amortizing it over 5 years. Because it's been done by banks many times where, you know,
Strictly because of interest rates, when you do that?
no, it's because if you have a line of credit that's out there and you can, instead of paying it down to zero, amortize it over a period of time, you really take it in as capital, an increase in capital over that period, permanent working capital. So I don't know that all of those receivables will come through, and but we'll see where, you know, where they go with that. It's just a request that I made to potentially give us more breathing room without asking for any increase in the other line.
All right, schedule of assets, that really hasn't changed very much. Year-to-date sales report, and it's only 1 month into the year, package is up, brokerage is up, loading is up. Rentals are the same, stevedoring is down. That's it for me.
And, you know, that's it. Stevedoring is the key at this point too, besides the billing on the ingots, the stevedoring with 2 ship vessels coming in will improve. Hopefully it'll continue to improve, hopefully it will improve because we have a foreign trade bill.
One question for you, and I ask these different formulas. Total current assets divided by total current liabilities over a 12-month period, basically for both of them. You have much previous in that, or it doesn't even apply to us.
Is the current ratio significant to this business? Sure.
The two of them still considered good.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, but you're looking at the exact right thing. It's about cash. We have a large capital base, but it's all, you know, buildings.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is build up a reserve of cash as part of our capital base.
All right, that's it for me.
Thanks, Stan. You're getting good at this.
Maybe you compare me to my predecessor?
Not at all.
No, that's right.
All right, so,
I think we need to accept those.
In a motion.
we have a motion to accept primary and subsidiary financial reports.
So moved.
Second.
Kit, any discussion?
No, it was pretty,
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Alrighty, and number 7, the chairman's report. Rand, do you have anything you want?
No, we've covered most of this in the meeting already, I'm good with it. I have no report at this time.
Alright, thank you. Committee reports. There were no committee meetings in April from the executive committee. Our search is, we're waiting for Fran to get back, so we will conclude all of our activities when Fran gets back. Other than the fact that we're gonna have that tour for urban forestry. I have no other information. How about audit and finance? That's ongoing.
So the Audit and Finance Committee did not meet, had them meet in order to have them approve and then have the board approve the chairman of the audit committee's authorization to execute the engagement letter for Bowers and CPAs and advisors who are in now conducting the audit. So I would look for an hoc motion to authorize Stan to execute the engagement letter.
All right, so do we have a motion to enact the engagement letter for Bowers?
so,
Kit? Second,
Second.
John? Any questions?
Do you have any interaction with them?
No.
Yeah. I spoke to them a little bit,
We
but
had
she's
them on.
both, you know, Debbie has been in for them when they were here on
Okay,
site.
all right, so nothing is
This is just
slipping
about,
off.
this is just about feeding them the information that they needed, and she's been in constant communication with them. I, at some point, expect to sit down with the department and go through it.
Yeah.
And they'll be giving us a,
Yeah, they'll give a full report.
And if we could have booklets prior to the
Yep.
report when they come in.
Yep.
I mean, I hate to get things,
Yep.
I can't even read one sentence.
Yep.
I need
Yep.
3 hours to digest it,
Yep,
so you gotta have an
Yep.
ahead of time for everybody.
I will make sure of that.
it's a good point.
Yeah. I mean, we've had them how many years now, before Kitty and I came out. So.
Yeah, I probably say that they're 7 or 8 years, and,
Yeah, that's what template they work with,
yeah.
hasn't changed much, which is good.
They actually succeeded the Sobe Bowie firm that we were using out of Watertown when they acquired them, which was an upgrade in their services.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, governance committee,
No report.
all right. Planning development,
well, the thing is that Tom and I are gonna set up some time for us to go and take a look at the,
17 next week.
yeah.
well, we look forward to that.
Anybody, have you been in there at all, Pat?
In and
And,
out.
I'm in there all the time.
Oh, okay.
I
How's it
would,
look?
It looks like it has been, and they've added more. They've taken some of the offices and, you know, put more people in there. I mean, they're keeping it looking good over there for everybody that's there.
and you know, there's a new dock that was a shared expense between them and the Coast Guard. It's really on the Coast Guard's property, but it's where their keyhole vessel, so Pat went with me when I toured the building and toured the KO vessel. And it's in very good shape. There's problems exterior to there from running water through the parking lot, but their maintenance of the building is very good.
Good.
All right, on to old business. Any old business? No? New business.
Tippy Gardens sent us a 38-page memo just the other night about,
That's,
I don't know, we have to act on that
It's
or
in the back.
talk about it or just what we're supposed
it
to
is,
do?
it's under new business. It is going to be an ad hoc motion to adopt that policy. If we can,
Right, okay.
don't mind if we just get through the first.
I read it through, it's
Two
fine
items.
to me.
So we'll put that at the end of new business. Okay.
Okay.
Our first item then is to review the sponsorship for the 2025 Harbor Fest from July 24th to July 27th. And that's Exhibit D, and they are requesting sponsorship.
So,
We've done it, yeah, we've done it almost every year we've
Yeah,
been here.
yeah, so I'm in support of the 10,000 is an ongoing donation, but I don't think we have the wherewithal for anything beyond that because of our in-kind donations.
Right.
And a lot of that is Pat in-kind donating, his time and effort.
I was just gonna say, you put it,
I had to work all weekend with the Cucci family, and I don't charge it back to the port. I do it, I run the crane for them, set everything on and off the barge, and just help them throughout the weekend. And I just
Whose
do that.
barge is it?
They rent it from different companies each year. The Canal Corps used to be able to let them use them, but I don't think they have the barges, so they've, Borough Marine, they're the ones that brought it in last year. And what we do is, like I said, we just set everything on the barge, get everything ready, and then they take it out, and then Sunday I come back and take everything back off the barge. And that's-
do you do this as an employee of the port? Or
yes.
just,
I do it as an employee, but I don't get paid for it.
I'm
I
just
do,
thinking
I donate.
liability insurance wise. We need to be listed, I'm sure we do, as additional insured with
I'll
Gucci and,
check with John Fitzgibbons, but I'm sure
that's John about that.
I'm sure
You get hurt.
that those riders have happened in the past.
I'm
Oh,
here,
yeah.
I'm here, I'm an employee, I just am not getting paid for it, but I'm here.
Okay.
So if a liability issue ever occurred though, was Patrick acting on his own behalf, or was he acting
No,
as a?
he's acting as a port employee.
Just give that scenario, John.
Yep.
Let's hear it.
I will.
Yeah, I got a little something to say about that. You know, I love Harbor Fest. And, I want to make it very clear that we have one intention, and that is for the success of this city, the successful Harbor Fest, and we're good neighbors.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. We recognize that. I mean, as a group, and we try to do whatever we can to help these, the businesses. But I just want to get that word out there, that's all.
Understood. I'm sure.
Understood, yeah.
All right, so they're asking for a donation of $10,000.
Asked for also a ban, but I just don't think that we're in a position to go past what we've got in the past.
Do we allow
What?
pedestrians to come
Pardon
in? So we do not, we have to close over, okay.
Did we contribute to bands before? I don't remember that.
Yeah, last year.
I don't,
How much
You did?
did we?
they're saying 2 years ago, you were nice enough to sponsor someone who didn't
Oh,
belong.
Nancy
Nancy
Kelly.
Kelly, yeah.
We have to.
So I just, You can do as you please. My recommendation was just that, and the indication I gave was the 10,000.
I understand they're financially strained,
Yeah.
but so are we.
Yeah,
And
So do we need to tell them that? When we send it the
Yeah,
10,000,
yeah,
and
yeah,
just say
yeah.
we're having a
Yeah,
problem?
Dan's followed up on this one multiple times. Dan Harrington's followed up on this multiple times, and I'll go communicate with him.
Okay.
just tell
And
them,
his expectations.
you might want that 10,000.
Don't go too worried. I'll make sure we don't need that.
well, we need a motion.
Yep.
Move it.
Dan? A second?
I'll second it.
Kit?
And it's a good thing to do for the city.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Did you say aye, Fred?
Say it again, Connie?
Did you say aye for that one?
I did.
Okay, thanks. So it makes it unanimous.
I didn't even raise my hand.
Okay, thank you.
So we will not consider the band subsidy.
My recommendation, we're doing our part at the $10,000 level.
Yeah, I think they would rather have the 10,000.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And Dan just
Okay, next on our agenda, we're getting close here. Letter to grant applications from Sean P. Duffy,
Yep.
Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation, Exhibit E.
I just put this memorandum in there, or this letter to recipients of U.S. Department of Transportation funding. We are a recipient of U.S. Department of Transportation funding, and this was a significant shift in philosophy. And I just wanted you to be aware of it for a big change in terms and conditions under which we operate that grant, which may then in turn be in violation of state statute.
So what do we do?
Well, we haven't gotten there. We get that out. But, yeah, everyone's monitoring. A lot of communication with the state going on regarding federal grants. A lot of communication with these port associations regarding federal grants. There are other grants out there that are really, like the Clean Water Act, and Clean Air Act, I'm sorry, grants that are with ports that are being held up.
I know.
And we have a number of people working on grants.
That's pretty much it for now. I have George to be at some point.
Sure.
Well, it's information received.
Yes.
We have more on notice. Is there any other new business?
Yes, the Oswego Opera Theater Corporation has its major fundraiser in June, and it's always playing golf at Bell Island. So I always send a letter to Bill and to either Kim or Deborah for something that can go into the bag that we give to all the players. It's different from year to year, but I'll be sending that letter out by the end of this week.
What do we usually donate?
How do you ask that?
Chomsky's?
I don't remember, because I wasn't part of it last year because of cancer. And so I have to remember from 2 years ago. I think it was cups one year, those beautiful little cups we had.
Coffee mugs, you mean?
What?
Coffee mugs?
Yeah.
We still have it? There you go.
Again?
And Bill told me, well, we have an extra amount of this and that, so we'll take care of it. So I never did know what.
Just send a letter and we'll figure it out.
Okay, okay.
I don't think we need a motion for that, do we?
No,
All right.
No, it's just new information.
Any other new business?
We do have, yes, we have this uniform guidance policy for federal awards. This policy, procedure manual, actually, it's not a policy, a procedural manual, which doesn't, policy really board approval procedures aren't, but given the vastness of this manual, for those who receive federal funds, we just talked about being federal fund recipients, it was pointed out in prior year's audit under a management letter comment that we did not have a procedural manual. So we took what the federal procedural manual was, I guess, and just put our name in all of the appropriate places. It seems fairly exhaustive.
Yes.
So do we,
Just kind of,
I mean, this is information that we have seen before.
no, we did not have this procedural manual for federal funds, and because it was pointed out in the audit, it would come up, if we did not adopt it, it would come up again, and then you'd have a recurring management letter comment, which you really don't want to have in your audits. I guess this was being worked on last year, and then it didn't get done. And then Debbie scrambles to get it done for this board meeting with the audit commencing.
My experience is that there's usually a checkbox in grant applications for federal money that do you have this?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
usually out there too. See, it's not even checkbox.
Yeah, yeah, we probably
Oh, yeah.
checked it in the past without knowing it.
Whoops.
No,
we do.
No, we
Can't do
haven't,
that.
but there's
Yeah.
a very particular way that
Yep.
all of the reporting is structured, and, we have a monthly call with
I gotta read that yet.
MARAD, the Maritime Association, in the management of the federal grant. So there's a script to follow, and we'll follow the script.
Well, on the advice of our trusted auditors,
Yeah. I'd like to just do an ad hoc motion
do we have
to adopt this
a
procedural
motion
manual.
to adopt the federal funds procedural manager?
So moved.
John?
I read it all the way through when it first came in. Very interesting stuff. I liked it very much, but it falls into some lovely generalities, which those sorts of
Nicely
documents
put.
do. Yes. So I vote yes, sure, I liked it.
Do we have a second?
Dan, you want to second it?
Must be against.
Kind of I am against it, but
Thank you.
This is 25006, Kim. Let me just jot this down. In case Kim and I need to have a conversation. Okay, any questions that you want to ask? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
can I abstain?
Can you abstain? Yeah.
Okay.
Does that affect anything you're?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
unanimous?
It's not a unanimous thing, so.
So,
Oh, so do we have to have you there?
what I was gonna do was put out all the motions under unanimous consent, and we could leave this one off, and then circle back to it next time, but.
Could we do
it
that,
was
because
approved.
I haven't had a chance to read it,
Yeah,
which is why
I knew
was-
why you were abstaining. Yeah. Here's the thing. In my experience, boards approve policy, not procedure. So I'm not so sure that this really needs board approval, but that seems to be what we do around here. So I'd rather have it, and I can assure you that the language is taken straight from the federal funds procedural manual as recommended.
Okay,
And if you can get through Android, you're a better person than I.
Because I haven't been,
I got through it.
I haven't, so I haven't, done that. Okay, so what should we do?
Yeah,
Well, we can do that.
Can
I
we
mean,
table it?
You should feel comfortable abstaining because you want to read it. That's
Yeah.
a very legitimate reason.
yeah,
So we can,
and, you
Yeah.
know, I still think we have a quorum and you have a majority vote. But maybe we'll do this another way. We'll do a separate unanimous consent once you get to it.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Don't be sorry.
You were correct. Do not vote yes for something that you haven't had the opportunity to review.
Because it came today.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, we're
I know, it's
doing
okay.
the best we can.
I know, we all
with
do.
the situation in hand.
Hear that.
And it's been, it's hard, we need that individual functioning efficiently.
it gives us an opportunity to legitimize what we're doing.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right. Any other new business for the good of the order? No, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
6:14. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so our next